Welcome to the New to Wrestling podcast, where I, your host, Xavier Cruz, a lifelong wrestling fan, will take a lifelong friend through the action, the joys, and the drama of the world of professional wrestling. My co-host, Kelsey Silva, has been bitten by the wrestling bug, and I want to invite you to join us as I take her through the moments that made me a fan. So if you're new to wrestling and would like to get brought up to speed, or a fan who would like to relive some classic matches, promos, and segments through fresh eyes, join us as we embark on a journey through the Attitude Era and beyond. Welcome to the New to Wrestling podcast. Hello, and welcome to another edition of the New to Wrestling podcast. This week, we watched the 1996 edition of Survivor Series, and the match card is as follows. We had 3 classic Survivor Series matches. We had the Undertaker versus Mankind with Paul Bearer suspended in a steel cage. We had Bret Hart versus Stone Cold Steve Austin. And then in our main event, we had Shawn Michaels versus Sycho Sid for the World Heavyweight Championship. All right.
Wild.
This whole
times.
pay-per-view was nuts. Absolutely bonkers.
It was like the last 4 Monday Night Raws were mostly for the plot. There wasn't wrestling. There was wrestling, obviously. But none of the matches were that crazy. And then they were we're saving it all for Survivor Series because there was zero plot.
Zero
little side stories, zero little things, just wrestling. It was crazy.
Very, very different. It's the culmination of all of the plot we've been thrown at for the last couple weeks.
Yeah, it was the climax of the show.
All right, so the pay-per-view opens with our first Survivor Series match, which has the British Bulldog teaming with Owen Hart and the New Rockers facing the debuting Philip LaFawn and Doug Furnas, along with the Godwins.
Mm-hmm.
So, this one, first of all, the British Bulldog comes out and starts just getting into it with the audience. The audience during this pay-per-view, guys, was unhinged. Maybe it's because it was in Madison Square Garden. I don't know.
Come on, New Yorkers.
Something in the air tonight, but
because I was we got a lot of hecklers. We got a lot of hecklers in the crowd. They were legit fighting, with their hair, throwing hands. And I was wow, these people are crazy. And Xavier's they're in New York.
yeah. I was we're in the city. This is not. Okay. This shouldn't be as surprising as it is. This match was pretty good.
It was
first
great.
of all, the debut of. Okay, we'll go back a little bit to last week. So when they had presented this match, they had given us this pixelated, who are these people, promo poster kind of situation. Lo and behold, that they would come out to be, first of all, the victors of the match.
Mm.
Who would have thunk?
And
absolute standouts as far as their ability goes. Granted, I know nothing else about them other than what I have seen in this one match, bell to bell, but they were very, very impressive.
Amazing. Actually amazing.
Right. One of them was a former bodybuilder,
mm-hmm.
Which he was ridiculously strong.
So strong.
And the other one was just very he's very more the finesse guy of the
mm-hmm.
team, more a little quicker, a little more technically sound. But they were they really showed out in this match. I was not expecting it, considering that I didn't even know what these people looked like up until we saw them today.
They really did them so dirty with the billboard picture of them for what they ended up being, because last week we talked about it. We were what is this photo? Who are these people? It set you up to be underwhelmed.
Correct.
And then first of all, I'm not gonna lie, I'm very into the name Doug Furnas. I don't know why, right? Because Doug alone, weird.
Not so much.
Furnas alone, okay. Doug Furnas though, for some reason,
just hits.
It kind of is a Danny Phantom, where it's you know what I mean? It's a normal average Joe name and then something really cool. And somehow it culminates into something so sick. I really, really love it. I don't even hate Philip LaFawn. I'm kind of into that also.
Apparently he's French.
Oui.
Right.
As they do. But but Philippe, but I actually love them. They're also their boots, because we have to comment on the boots, were incredible. They were red on the inside, white on the outside. Who did that? Love you for that. But to win on the debut after such a mediocre introduction or like lead up to them
was
because like
very impressive, especially considering that they got the pinfall victory over like the tag team champions. Like the last two, it was the debuting like team, as well as the last person on the opposite team was Owen Hart. So technically, they have a pinfall victory over the tag team champions, which I mean, if they're a new tag team, nothing to sneeze at. So like we'll see kind of like where that goes. But this match was it was just fun. It was a good back and forth. Like
it was great.
It was very tag team centric, which we knew like going into it. Just a couple call outs from this match. The first thing that needs to grab our attention is that little spit take.
I was just gonna say, is it Phineas Godwin and the spit?
Absolutely. So this
Amen.
man, at his first time into the ring, like he starts the match, this man proceeds to spit up into the air, catches it in his hands, rubs it together, and then rubs it all through his hair, thus just really selling. What is he selling? I don't know, but like it was equal parts vile and impressive.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely.
Right?
It was like, it's like I hate to see it, but also I wanted to see it. Like, because I want to say, I will mention that the loogie was so big I thought it was a piece of gum.
Right.
Like I was like, I thought he was spinning gum into the air and like he was gonna catch the gum, and I was like, that's disgusting. And then it was spit, and he slicked a hair.
Yeah. But like I wouldn't want to touch him after that.
No, I was gonna say whatever he's selling, I'm gonna slide the money across the counter. I'm not actually gonna take anything from his hand.
100%. Do not place your bills in my hand, sir. I don't trust it.
I'm gonna slide it right across the counter. That's for you. And just leave the merchandise there. I'll pick it up myself.
Amen. Some other call outs from this match. First of all, the most stunning drop kick I've ever seen off of Furnace. That's Doug Furnace.
Doug Furnace
he got such height, and the precision he got where he just like both of his like the points of both of his toes just clipped Owen in the face. And it was other than Randy Orton, which is, way down the line, that is probably the best drop kick I've seen probably ever. It was very, very good.
High praise.
Also, Owen does a fisherman suplex to perfection. That's the one where he had one leg hooked as well as the guy's head, and then he like flipped him over his head, and then and then he goes into like the pinning predicament where he's like on his toes.
Oh my god, like on the toes, like a ballerina.
He like bridges into a pinfall like kind of situation, and it is just like too perfect. Like it is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. And then he goes into execute the sharpshooter also to perfection. Like it looked, those two like back-to-back moves were just like, wow, I've never seen this man look better.
I mean, yeah, he was incredible. And that's, I think, again, what you're saying, like it adds to that element of like how these two off the debut take out someone who's wrestling at their peak. Not even just in tag team, but solo. Like he was killing it this match, Owen.
Absolutely. So Furnace does a couple of belly to belly suplexes on Owen Hart. The first one, stunning, absolutely amazing. The second one looked like he dropped Owen on his head. Like it looked like Owen's head, if it did clear the mat, like centimeters cleared the mat.
It was really scary, and they played it again. So when you first saw it, you're like, "Ee," and you're like, I don't know, maybe it wasn't that bad. And then they played it again, and you're like, oh no, it was almost really bad.
Yeah, because I had missed it the first time because I was taking notes with something, and then they replayed it, and I was like, oh, like that was not cute. Not cute.
Not at all.
And granted, like this is like their debut, so I don't know how long they've been wrestling before they got here, or like how green they are, or whatever. They looked very impressive, so I can't imagine that this is like they're new to the game. You know what I mean? But that last move was brutal. But that does give them the pinfall victory, which leads them to be the victors of the match, which is fantastic. So more on that tag team. We'll see kind of where that goes from here. We don't really know them that well. We'll see what their personalities really entail. But
right now,
an exciting victory, that's for sure.
Yeah, right now for me, their personalities are really good at wrestling and extremely thick. Like thighs the size of my torso thick.
Yeah, with like we're crushing watermelons.
Love to see it. Love to see it. And that's just my 2 cents on
that. So after that match, we transitioned to Kevin Kelly backstage.
Fearless.
Doing the Lord's work.
Fearless Kevin Kelly.
Down into the depths of the arena where Mankind and Paul Bearer are hanging out. Paul Bearer is freaking out because he knows what his immediate future is going to entail, and he wants no part of it. He is just repeating, like, I'm not going in no cage. I'm not an animal. Like, and then...
Which, like, you are. Sorry.
100%. Absolutely. Let's not try to separate ourselves from the pack here and give ourselves a little kudos that we don't deserve. Then Mankind kind of takes over the promo. And he's like, remember, like, your last, like, gasping breath. Like, and then he makes mention of comparing the Undertaker to the cockroaches that he used to eat, and it was weird. It was a weird one. But we kept it kind of short and sweet, and Mankind ends it with, I'm going to eat you alive. And then I assumed that this was just like a promo for like later on, and boom, his music hits and they're walking to the arena. Like the match is happening now.
We're like, it's happening now. It's happening now.
It's oh my god, we were right now. Was not expecting it to be this up like in the card, but I feel like because we've already had we've had other matches between the two, that it wasn't, I don't want to say it wasn't worthy enough to be the further down the card, but we had other storylines that we've kind of spent a little bit more time in the last couple weeks. Like, yes, we've had promos from the two of them, but as far as like this being like a new storyline that we've been progressing for the last couple weeks, it's not really the case. So I guess it makes sense that it was kind of like higher up on the card. And it gives like a good break as far as like you can't just have like a bunch of Survivor Series matches in a row, because as you can imagine, like there's a formula like to them, and they tend to be a little bit lengthy because they're elimination matches. So like, and trying not to like tire an audience out, like made sense.
It really worked out in the layout of the whole match. It was it was like initially shocking. It was like right then.
So Mankind makes his entrance. They're like chilling in the ring. The cage is down. Paul Bearer is not getting in it, not doing it. And then the gong hits for the Undertaker's entrance, and that man descends from the ceiling dressed as a bat.
As a bat.
That
as a bat,
like out of, first of all, he hit us with like a whole new entrance. He hit us with a whole new outfit. He with a whole new hairdo. This man was. This is not the Undertaker that got buried alive, and they made a point of mentioning that. This is not the same Undertaker.
And I think it was like, so poetic, if I may, that he was buried alive in the ground and then his comeback is descending from the ceiling.
Right.
Like, come on. I love the detail in the new fit. He was full leather and like lace up. Like everything was like laced up. He had a black teardrop under his eye. And it was so funny because at one point, I think it was Vince McMahon was like, he's got something under his eye on his face, but I can't quite make it out what it is from here. And we're like, babe,
I was like, I could have seen that from the nosebleeds.
Because they almost like exaggerated it. Like,
it
was
fully.
Really
it was, first of all, it's huge.
Humongous.
And could not look more like a cartoon teardrop if like you just, Vince, are you blind?
Like, and then he had the half up, half down. He said, no hair in my eyes, baby. He had the like Pantene wash and press. Like, he was he looked incredible.
He came out fresh as a daisy.
Like he popped up after being buried alive.
So, during the Undertaker's entrance, Paul Bearer, to protect himself from the Undertaker, climbs into the cage.
Which JR called a whale cage, by the way, because of Paul Bearer being in it, which is heinous and amazing.
Right. So, because they had been referring to it as a shark cage the entire time, and then he just goes, or a whale cage, whatever. It'll fit Paul Bearer. And they were like, and then they just kind of like moved on as if they didn't say this like heinous thing. And I was like, oh, okay.
All right.
So throughout this match, we see kind of a a little bit more of a technical Undertaker. If we he didn't really like come out, don't get me wrong, he comes like he's very aggressive in this match, but there are little things that he does that are kind of uncharacteristic to the Undertaker that we have seen like prior. There were a lot more reversals to like moves, there was a lot more like nuance, and even the moves that we've already seen, like old school when he was walking the tightrope, there was a little extra pepper in it, you know? Like there was something about tonight that he was like, I haven't been around for a minute. If I'm gonna come out and like be a distinctly like kind of slightly different character, like I'm gonna commit to that. And this is what we've said all along about the Undertaker is like, right or wrong, whatever direction he's going, it's full throttle in that direction. Which is why you buy in.
100%.
So this match was fantastic. Of course,
amazing.
It was like, just ridiculously physical. They fought all over the kind of ringside area into the crowd. And then kind of like brought it back into the ring. And the Undertaker really was focusing on Mankind's hand the whole time. He was stomping on it on the steel steps. He was biting it at one point. He was bending it backwards. At one point, the Undertaker had Mankind into like a Fujiwara armbar, like a UFC armbar move, and was bending Mankind's fingers back. It was brutal. But it tells, like, you know what I mean? It goes to show how threatening the mandible claw is. If someone the caliber of the Undertaker feels the need to go out of his way to try and prevent that from happening. Because it is such a devastating maneuver that's like, for someone who is just such a badass like the Undertaker to be like, oh, I need to be careful of that, because he's already got by that on numerous occasions. And that in and of itself is like what differentiates this match from the prior ones, because you always have to like do something different. Like, yes, there are different like stipulations. You got to tweak, I think, the psychology of it a little bit. Because of course. Because now the Undertaker is not coming from a position of where like he's being surprised by what Mankind is bringing. Mankind is no longer new. He's no longer like shocking as far as like what he can inflict on the Undertaker. So the Undertaker has to approach this match in a more like, okay, you've gotten the one up on me before, not gonna happen again.
Like, this is a seasoned opponent of his now. And I think to go in a direction of like the Undertaker himself is but he's like honing in the more technical skills, you know, like he's doing more technical wrestling instead of just being like, I'm a brute, like to have a more like technical match also, like, oh, let me do the thing where I incapacitate his number one weapon. I think is interesting and like kind of drives it home very subtly. Where it's like, okay, like, you know, you see people like, oh, I'm going to take out this guy's knee because, you know, he always has like, or like sweet chin music. Like someone's going to take out like Shawn Michaels' knee because they don't want him to hit him with the sweet chin music or whatever. So it's like kind of that same thing where it's like, all right, Undertaker's like plotting, calculating, doing certain moves to take out like the one weapon that really has been formed against him and prospered in the past. And like, it's just interesting to see that development where it's like, okay, I know this is still the Undertaker. He wrestles like he's the Undertaker, but also it's like that added, like you said, that little
There's a little something.
There's a little something where he's still recognizable as like one of your favorite wrestlers of all time, but you can see the growth, and it's just like interesting. It's just so interesting.
Yes, it is. But this match was so fast paced and so violent at like some points. So at one point, the Undertaker basically yeets Mankind into the steel barricade.
Oh my God.
So the Undertaker is laying on his back in the ring, and Mankind is trying to grab the Undertaker's legs. And the Undertaker reels back both legs and just like punts this dude just like straight in the chest, so that Mankind falls backwards into the steel barricade. And the thud was absolutely sickening.
It was sickening. I didn't see it at first. Because I was writing a note and I was like, oh man, I didn't see it. And then they replayed it and I was like, Oh, like it was like something that happens in like a superhero movie, like the
Right.
superhero versus the villain where they like punt and they go like flying back. And it was so brutal. JR was like, and he's not wearing a helmet, as if they ever do.
Right.
But like the thud was so violent. He was like, and he's not even wearing head protection. He is just raw exposed cranium to the steel
100%.
barricade and the floor.
So we get a little further into the match, and at one point, Mankind does start executing the mandible claw, and we think the Undertaker is going down again. So like he's in it for a minute. So the referee starts doing the counts to, he's got three counts to be declared like knocked out. He gets through the first one, the second one, the third one. He kind of like stops himself right before, and then grabs Mankind by the throat and like transitions out of the mandible claw into a choke slam. And then they start wrestling over into like the corner, and like Mankind's like trying to like escape like up the ropes, and the Undertaker just like with just sheer power muscles him out of like the corner and into a tombstone position and drops that dude on his head and gets the victory.
Insane.
So it's beautiful. And then so they start descending the cage with Paul Bearer in it, and on the Undertaker, as the cage is like descending, he grabs the cage with like one hand and just like
seductive.
Oh, he's like, oh, I can't wait till I get my hands on you. So like he finally like the cage hits the ground, and in the background you see the stupid executioner.
I hate him.
He comes running down and attacks the Undertaker, preventing him from getting his sweet, sweet revenge on Paul Bearer.
I hate him so much because who are you? Who are you? We have known nothing about him, not a thing, and just popping out of the blue. Like literally Undertaker's hand was on the door. And I was like to open the cage, and I was like, what is going to happen? Like, what's he going to do? Like, at first I was like nervous. I was like, is this going to be a forgiveness arc where he's like, Paul, like, come back, like, la, la, la. And I was like, I will be so upset if that happens. And then I was even more upset because here comes, Halloween Town executioner running up the thing and interfering again. And I'm like, when will somebody take this guy out? Who keeps letting him in the building? Who is he?
Or at least like put him in a match so we can
well, that's what I was gonna say. Like,
has
he wrestled at all? Like, has anyone seen him wrestle? Not that I know of.
No.
The only new information potentially we gleaned is that JR was like, I wonder how much Paul Bearer is paying the executioner to like be his bodyguard, and when he'll realize it's not enough, like not enough money. And I was like,
that's a good line.
Okay,
the Undertaker don't stop for nobody.
That's what I'm saying. I was like, so now I feel like he knows, because now the executioner has like really directly to Undertaker's face interfered. Not that he didn't for Buried Alive, because he absolutely did, but now that's 2 times.
Right.
So it's like, okay, now you're the problem. I took out Mankind to get to Paul Bearer, and now you're getting in my way, and now I'm gonna have to take out you to get to Paul Bearer. But either way, I'm getting there.
Whoa, 100%.
Like 100%.
No one is going to deny the Undertaker for long. Let's just put it that way.
That's what I'm saying.
All right, so that's that on that. We'll see if this feud's over, where we're going with this. They did make a point at the end of the match to be like, this is not resolved. Like, this hasn't been squashed in the way that I think is satisfying to the Undertaker. So we'll see where that goes from here. So next we transition to Sunny coming down, who we haven't really seen in a little bit. We've seen her here and there, but she's got
nobody wrestling.
She has no wrestler. So like she hasn't really been a main kind of plot point at all. So she comes down to join commentary for this match, which is the second Survivor Series match, which entails Hunter Hearst Helmsley's team, which involves the King, Goldust, and Crush, and then Mark Miro's team, which is Rocky Maivia and the Stalker. Originally, it was supposed to be Mark Henry, but that apparently will not be the case because Mark Henry is injured, and he will be replaced by Jake the Snake Roberts, who comes down to the ring, mind you, waving that snake all crazy, and then beats the snake into the ring, like with no regard for this animal. When I tell you, I am concerned for these snakes.
It is insane because I'm like, and I've said it a million times, but I'll say it again. There is no way he would have gotten away with even a second of that today.
No.
Like if that aired, no way. He threw this snake into the ring. Like,
no, absolutely. Yeah. Just complete disregard.
And then stuffed it in the bag while the match went on. He was like, okay, now we've all seen the snake.
Got it. Right.
Shoves it in the bag. Wild.
So this match is the debut match of The Rock, which is very, very, very exciting. Listen, when we're talking about key players of the era that we're talking about right now and that we're watching, we are now getting all of the key players. Like there's going to be more, obviously, but as far as who's going to be in like the world title picture for the next 3 years, we got The Undertaker. We got Stone Cold Steve Austin. We have The Rock. We have Triple H. We have Bret Hart. We have Shawn Michaels. Like all of these like players are huge names in the Attitude Era, and they've all finally like arrived. And that's kind of, this is the point like I've been wanting to get to. But granted, you can't know where you're going unless you know where you've been. So we had to start back a little bit further.
And I love a backstory.
Oh, absolutely.
Needed the backstory.
So this is the debut match for The Rock, and this is also a continuation of the feud between Hunter Hearst Helmsley and Mark Miro. As we know, Hunter Hearst Helmsley is now the Intercontinental Champion.
Irritating.
Due to him robbing Mark Miro of the title with the help of Mr. Perfect. But apparently it was alluded to that during this match, there has been like a rift between Mr. Perfect and Triple H, which is why Mr. Perfect was not here during
Still haven't seen him wrestle, and I knew it. I said it last week. I was like, who knows if I'll actually see him wrestle? He'll probably get an injury or something.
Boop. Wasn't there.
Injury to the spirit.
Honestly, a little fun little moment during this match is when whenever Jerry the King Lawler entered the match, the crowd started a Burger King chant.
Incredible.
And with an unrelenting volume.
Relentless.
Like they were going in on this chant the whole time, and it was like noticeably affecting him.
Yeah,
he was not happy about it.
Not happy. We love you, New York. We love you.
So also during this match, we start seeing, I don't know if you've noticed, like the aggression from Triple H on The Rock in this match was a lot. And they will down the line in the near-ish future have a crazy feud, and like
I can't wait to see it
because
he's on my list.
They both end up kind of like in this same kind of spot where they're floating around like the middle of the card, like trying to break to the top a little bit further down. That made for a lot of really, really compelling matches because yes, it's all like, it's scripted, whatever. But every time you go out there, you're trying to prove to the guy in the back that you're the one who should have the title next. You know what I mean? That's not like written in stone. Those things change. So and the thing about like wrestling specifically is if you do a good enough job and you get the crowd to do what it is that you're trying to do, if you're the bad guy, if you make the crowd absolutely hate your guts, you're more than likely going to be in the title picture. Like if you can the converse of that, like if you get the crowd to absolutely like love you and go feral every time you come out, you're also most likely going to be in the title picture. It's all about like if you can elicit that reaction from the crowd, usually means you can elicit money. You can elicit them to buy merch. You can elicit them to buy tickets. So every time you go out there, like while it is a scripted program, like you are trying to get your name out there. So if the better your matches are, the more the crowd reacts to you. Anything you can do that's going to set yourself apart is going to be beneficial to you in the long run. So because these two are very much in the same kind of place in their careers, it leads to them having some very competitive matches, all with the aim of getting to the next level, which is nice.
Wow. And so like indifference is like the enemy in this situation. Like if people don't care about you, they're like, oh, okay, it's that guy.
It is a killer for you in wrestling.
Like a career killer.
If the crowd doesn't care one way or the other, you're not a good wrestler. You haven't done, like, you could be like the most amazing like technical wrestler like in the ring, but if they don't care about you, like, it doesn't matter,
right?
Because
like, why are we here?
They're not invested.
Yes.
So like, if you're not invested, you didn't do your job. So The Rock ends up being, I keep calling him The Rock. It's a little premature. Rocky Maivia ends up being the final competitor for his team, and he looks like $1 million. He looks really good. Like, don't get me wrong, he's definitely like, there are moments where you see him hesitate a little bit, but that man is so naturally athletic that he just pulls off so much more than he probably should be able to at this stage in his career.
Yes.
He looked really, really good. There's another one who wins the Survivor Series match in their debut match, which is pretty impressive.
Very impressive.
And we know that The Rock is going to be one to keep our eyes on, obviously.
Yeah, which is funny. Sunny kept mentioning it. Is that what you were going to say?
Sunny was trying to get her paws all over The Rock.
Oh my God. She was like, he's someone I've got my eye on as a prospective champion. I used to tell all my champions. And I was like, girl, you have no champions.
You have no one.
Not one. Your outfit was really cute today, but you can't be talking about my champions when you have no champions.
That's what I'm saying.
Leave Rocky alone.
Right. Thank you. So The Rock comes out on top, and I just can't wait for you to see where this is going.
I know, so exciting.
Because we'll talk about where it's going in a little bit. Because we have a debuting faction in a little bit that is going to be pivotal as far as The Rock's career goes.
Yeah, I'm interested in the factions. Because is this? And I guess we can talk about it when we get there.
Sure. So the next match was the much anticipated return of Bret the Hitman Hart facing Stone Cold Steve Austin, which we find out is now a #1 contendership match. So the winner of this match will go on to face the winner of the main event, Sycho Sid versus the champion Shawn Michaels. So we get into a little kind of like pre-match promo we gotta get like a vignette of Bret Hart. It's, very well done, very pink and black and white and blah, 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 leading it all up. But we get a kind of a backstage segment with Stone Cold, and he's, of course, talking his ish. And my favorite line from the whole thing is cliches are cliches, because he talks about how Bret Hart calls himself the best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be, as well as the excellence of execution. So these are kind of like his monikers. So he's like, cliches are cliches, and an ass whooping is an ass whooping. And then just starts making his way out to the ring.
And then he just goes out to the ring.
So good. So
good. I love every time he speaks, it slaps.
So this was the first time that you were seeing Bret Hart wrestle at all, which is a very, very exciting, just because he's one of my favorite like wrestlers probably to ever do it. This match was off the chains. It was fantastic. It was
top to bottom sensational.
So we kind of get a little glimpse into something that will be very, very prominent in Stone Cold's future before this match starts. He double flips off Bret Hart, just straight in his face, flips him the bird. And if there's anything you know about Stone Cold, he loves to give people the bird. And it will just become such a frequent thing. But this is the first time we're kind of seeing it so overtly done. So this is the first time that it's kind of like, and the reaction from the crowd,
that's what I was gonna say,
is why it keeps happening.
Yeah, they were like, oh,
They
like,
loved it. They ate it up.
yeah,
They ate it up.
they love him so much, and so do I. And this was crazy because, and I think this happened in the last two matches specifically, but like I think the crowd was so split because there's so many people that love Bret the Hitman Hart, and now there's so many people who love Stone Cold. So it was like, what way is this gonna go?
Right.
And we see that also in the final match. But yeah, it's just interesting to see. I love, obviously we've talked about this, how involved the crowd gets, and it just like gets you so hype.
This was a really, really good crowd. Just as far
Really good
this is the kind of
crowd.
crowd you want for a pay-per-view. You want that kind of
Absolutely.
like that raucousness, that rowdiness, that like that willingness to participate in whatever's going down.
Yep.
This match was phenomenal. We start out kind of like with a feeling out process, like between the two. Neither of them are really like rushing into anything like
Mm-hmm.
crazy. It's very much like submission based. We're very much getting a lot of like chain wrestling where we're getting hold, reversal, hold, reversal, hold, reversal. And it's doing two things. One, it shows that Bret Hart is it's still in ring shape,
Yep.
and has not lost anything. And then it also shows that Stone Cold is not just a like bash your face in brawler. So
Yes.
it is like a
Yes.
twofold kind of thing. Because while yes, Stone Cold is going in like the direction of being like a, like a bully, very loud, very brash, like in your face. Um, but if you're trying to position somebody to be a world champion one day, they got to be able to have a match with every kind of competitor.
Right. And I think
So,
it's like really, it dawned on me while we're watching this match, like actually what an honor, at least unless that's being too strong, but like an honor it is like to have Stone Cold wrestle against like the re-debut of somebody so huge and so admired and so
right.
cherished.
No, it
Like
is.
it's crazy to think about because again, like we saw Stone Cold's debut like when we first started this podcast, which was not that long ago. We're in it, but it's not like that long ago.
Right.
And so to like I think that speaks a lot to how they see his potential, the way that, the crowd loves him so much, like how we see his potential. And obviously we know he becomes so huge, but to have him like have Bret the Hitman Hart say, I want to come back and wrestle against who I think is the best wrestler in the WWF, and that be Stone Cold, is crazy.
Right.
Is like huge. And it really hit me when we were watching this, like how insane that is.
The entire match, there was no point where you were like, oh, they got it. Or
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, he has it. Like at
Mm-hmm.
no point were you certain that anything was going to happen. And that's what makes it so phenomenal. So
Mm-hmm.
there's this one point in the match where Stone Cold, he like picks him up and like hangs him out to dry like over the top rope.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like mentioning this because then the Stone Cold proceeds to really focus on the head and neck of
Mm-hmm.
Bret Hart for like a good portion of like the next segment of the match. So we get to a point where they are kind of outside and they start fighting on the Spanish announce table, but not just
Yep.
on the Spanish announce table, on the Spanish announcers, on the Spanish announcer.
On the Spanish announcer. Bret Hart
So
gets thrown into the table. Stone Cold jumps off the ring and hits him with the elbow in the neck. Then somehow they get tumbled into, was his name Hugo?
Hugo
I think
Savinovich.
Hugo. Literally, they were fighting on top of his body.
Right.
His
So
body.
it's Hugo, Bret Hart, Stone Cold just beating up Bret Hart on
And
top
you
of
just see
Hugo.
Hugo's limbs, like,
Just please get me out of here. Like just
please.
like as if we
Head
drop the house on the Wicked Witch of the West and like that's all you see is just his stupid little feet. And you're just like, oh my God, can
somebody
someone
get.
please get this man out
And
of here?
when they pulled back and you saw how his body was contorted, his head was up against the barricade and the other half of his head was behind the chair. Like he was not like
He was not doing
not
well.
safe. Like not safe. And I don't know who said it. Either JR or
JR.
Vince was like, JR, can somebody like help see if Hugo's okay? Like, can
Right.
somebody go get him? Like, what's
Right.
happening right now? Horrible.
So that part of the match was absolutely insane. Mostly just because there was just an innocent bystander just absolutely taken out.
And JR said it's always the Spanish announce table. And I was like, speak on it, JR. Seriously.
That's what I've been saying.
Somebody had to say it. Xavier's been saying it, but I needed somebody on the ground.
I was like, maybe I'm just biased because I am Hispanic, but like it's always the Spanish announce table. And it was confirmed. All right.
Confirmed.
It's not just me.
It's canon.
We get back into the ring and Bret Hart gives Austin his receipt. So he picks up Austin and hangs Austin over the ring ropes. I am a firm believer that first hanging did a number on Bret. He was not happy about how that went down, so he waited for his spot to pick his receipt.
You said he was like, I'm gonna find my opening and you are going to get your receipt.
100%.
And it was a doozy because it was also on a reversal, I think, like and he like spun him around and just hung him
because like it would have been very much, the reason I believe it's a receipt is because it would have been a lot easier to do a lot of other moves, but he literally turns and positions himself in the spot to then throw him over onto the rope. Like it would have been very, like there was so many other things that would have been easier to do.
Even just a clothesline.
He's like, no, this is the point I'm making.
Loved it. I love to see it.
Which was fantastic, and then followed up by the most stunning pile driver I've ever seen. It was a thing of beauty.
Gorgeous.
So after that pile driver, they're still going back and forth. And at this point on commentary, they're like, JR at one point is like, it's anybody's game. He's like, there is no clear victor here. So they're fighting up the top rope, and Stone Cold delivers a superplex from the top rope onto Bret Hart it is the way that they land. It seems just the impact was so sudden that like even Stone Cold looked like a little like stunned. Like,
yeah. And I think JR was like, that's a move that's hard on the both of them, as if he saw how rattled they both were and was like, that's one it takes some sacrifice to get the other guy because it's hard on you too. And I was like, dang, they looked, it was busted.
Worse for wear. Let's just put it that way.
Worse for wear.
So Stone Cold after that delivers the Stone Cold Stunner, and Bret Hart kicks out.
He's like,
much to the chagrin of Stone Cold, he was big pissed about it.
Big pissed.
Because not only did he, like, the way that he went back for more covers was, one, very aggressive, and two, at one point he just starts like pounding Bret Hart's face in and then going
covering him.
Like, he was pissed.
And I have to say, like, this is something I always think about, like, when I watch wrestling, when they like think they got the cover and then they like kick out at the last minute and then they're like, oh,
right,
why? And I get it, I know why they do it, but I'm always like, just get back in there. Like, he's obviously not really conscious, like, just go for it again. And I'm like, they never do that because they have to like sell and then they have to do another move and then they have to whatever. And I was like, this is how you know he's so mad, because he's like, he didn't get the first cover, he just pushed him right back down, didn't get it again, bop bop bop, pushed him right back down. And I was like, okay, like, you can sense the intensity, like it made it so intense, like, oh my god, just get him, or like, how's he gonna get out of it? It was
so then good. Austin puts Bret Hart in the $1 Million Dream, which was the finisher for his like previous gimmick, and Bret Hart proceeds to climb. He's still in the hold, mind you. It's essentially like a version of like a chicken wing, where he's got one of Bret Hart's arms behind his head and is basically like choking him out, and like it's like a sleeper. So Bret Hart proceeds to climb his little feet up the ropes, trips Steve Austin. He reverses the move, pins Stone Cold's shoulders to the ground while Stone Cold is still holding the submission, thus giving him the victory and squeaking one out underneath Stone Cold Steve Austin. And if you thought he was pissed before, that man was not happy. Your reaction to the end of that match was priceless.
Because it just came out of nowhere.
Right.
It was so amazing. And again, I think this is like really excellent storytelling, because it's like like Bret had to almost like get one under on him or over on him, or like to kind of
Right.
like fake him out, or not fake him out, but like hit that reversal that was so unexpected,
Right.
just to be able to win. So again, like even though Stone Cold lost, he still looks good to me anyway.
Correct.
Like
Yeah,
he
yeah,
still
yeah.
looks so strong, but it was like just so well done. And again, I think really emphasizes how amazing Bret Hart is as a technical wrestler, because like who would think to do that? Like
Right.
who would, because I wasn't thinking of it, which is why, and yes, I am new to wrestling, hashtag the name of this podcast, but like, so why would I think of it? But it was so unexpected and it happened so quick. And I was like, did that really just happen? Did he seriously just win? Like,
Yeah, it was
I,
so good. And I
so
think it
good.
does like in the same vein of like it made Stone Cold look like he had to like resort to doing that. It was
Yes.
it's also it kind of like chalks it up to just Bret Hart having more experience as far as like he's already been a world champion. He's been in these situations where his back's been against the wall and like he's
Right.
had to come out with creative like victories.
So
So
true.
it chalks it up. It kind of gives like another thing to give like Stone Cold like grace on, is that he hasn't been in those like high pressure like big matches, and like
Right.
he's with somebody who has like
Right.
and who somebody who has even throughout this rivalry has shown that his restraint is almost his biggest like weapon, and
Mm.
that like he's not going to like he doesn't really feed into in their exchanges. He hasn't really like fed into the bait
Right.
as far as whatever Stone Cold's like been dropping. And I think that like there's something about his demeanor that like is kind of like off-putting to wrestlers, in that like you
Mm.
don't know what to make of him because he doesn't give you a lot.
Anything.
He's like, where I'm going to prove myself is ding ding to ding ding. And he's like, I don't feel like I need to like stoop to your level to get my point across.
Yes. It gives him like very like it makes him read so calculating, where it's like I literally don't have time to fall into whatever trap you're trying to build in terms of like getting me emotionally
Mm-hmm.
worked up, because I'm too busy calculating every single move that could possibly happen
Right.
and countering it, reversing it.
Because he's the excellence of execution.
Yes. Like it
It all
wow.
leads to like his character. It just like I
So
really feel like his
interesting.
the and again, that's been the thing with this whole rivalry is Stone Cold looks as like absolutely like full throttle as he does because he's being compared to somebody who is just like, no, I'll show you when I need to show you. You know what I mean? Because
Yes.
it makes him look that much more like deranged and passionate and like going to get his goals at whatever means,
Right.
because it's being compared to like something that is so like, no, I've been on top, I'm calm, I'm cool, I'm collected. And it's just like that is such a like just juxtaposition of styles that it really does a good job of allowing Stone Cold to be even more set in who he is.
Yes. Oh, 100%. They really set up so much to be unpacked with just this match, like beyond. Just
Mm-hmm.
like how like old school versus new school, seasoned versus like not seasoned, like because again, like you can be as young and hungry as you want, and Stone Cold's been like in match after match after match after match, but like you said, like Bret Hart has been wrestling for 12 years.
Right.
He's seen it all. Like even anything Stone Cold has to dish, like he's seen it, or at least some version of it. So
Mm-hmm.
like young and hungry meets like seasoned wisdom, like, and just
Ooh, it's so good. So
I
good.
love to see it. But it was just again an
This match
incredible
did not
match,
disappoint.
two incredible wrestlers. Like it's just
Yeah,
it
definitely
was
one that
so
was
well done.
not overhyped. It hit every mark that it needed to hit, and we're not done.
We're not even done.
Or
We're
at
not
least
even done.
we're not done, because there's no way Stone Cold is going to take that well. First of all, he
No.
does have a match with Vader on the next episode of Raw that we will be watching.
which is which at the time was literally the next day.
It will be the following day.
Insane.
Right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But for all of us, it'll be next week. But like for them,
Stone Cold,
the following day. Ludicrous.
Amen. So after that phenomenal match, we have Doc Samson backstage with Sycho Sid.
XL close-up shot of the face that scared me to death.
Oh, amen. Basically the gist of this promo is he will do any and everything to walk out the champ.
He was first of all, wearing a backwards hat. Since when? Weird. And two, he was so obviously not moist, which is so unlike him. And we literally, what did you say? We did like a hot 5-minute take on it.
We did a tight 5 on how wet he constantly is. And then he comes out and just absolutely proves us wrong.
It's like his ears were ringing.
Stupid. Don't you dare.
Don't make me look dumb.
Me a fool.
Don't make me look dumb when you always come out drip drop. We're talking about your assistant who comes out and sprays you, and now I'm a fool. Why would you do that to me? Why would you do that to me? Anyway,
so we'll catch up with him later. But the next match is the third and final Survivor Series match, which entails Farouk, Razor Ramon, Diesel, and Vader versus Savio Vega, Yokozuna, the debuting Flash Funk, and the surprise partner, which ends up being Hall of Famer Jimmy Superfly Snuka. And so this one was just kind of wild. But first, I want to make mention of, it has been bandied about that Farouk will be undergoing a change. There was going to be something different about Farouk. And this is the debut of the Nation of Domination, which I did not know was going to be tonight.
Xavier was so hype. You guys have no idea. Dude, he was like, wait a minute. Is this Nation of Domination? I was like, the what?
I was so stoked.
So stoked.
So the Nation is Farouk's is going to be Farouk's faction. He is going to be the leader of this faction, and he's going to start kind of accumulating wrestlers to kind of join him in his vision. So going forward, the Nation comes out very dominant in the next little while. I'm very excited. I haven't really known the origin story of the Nation of Domination, but it's very, very exciting that it happened on the same night as the debut of The Rock, because The Rock will eventually become a part of the Nation.
Okay.
And The Rock really becomes who The Rock is during the Nation's kind of run as a faction.
Okay.
And that is something that is so exciting, which is why I was personally so stoked that the Nation was happening, just because I didn't think it was going to be
happening for a minute.
This pay-per-view. Yeah.
Oh, so exciting. I do have questions.
Hit me.
Because is this the first faction we've seen, or there have been others?
I mean, there have been others throughout wrestling before this.
Because I know there exists now, they're heavy existing now.
Yes, for sure. But this is kind of the first kind of one in this era of the WWF.
Okay. Because from what I understand, because there's groups of wrestlers who are coached by the same person, and they're not a thing. They're not Cornette's Camp isn't a faction, or is it?
I guess technically it would be.
But it's just more, because I feel like a faction seems to me it's one wrestler just accumulates a group of other wrestlers. But
there's usually a leader.
Okay.
There's usually a leader of the faction. And the thing that makes a faction is, one, it typically has 4 or more wrestlers. And two, they usually have a very unilateral
flavor
or theme,
because the only one I know is from the little bit of AEW that we've watched.
Yes,
Chris Jericho has a faction.
Yeah, he's a big faction guy.
So he's a big faction guy.
He picks up and drops factions he's
and it's I feel like it ends up being a huge recruiting people to the faction becomes, or wanting to be recruited by a specific faction becomes a huge part of somebody's storyline. That's for some people.
For some, yeah, it becomes their rush.
Yes, their rush. Okay, yeah. Okay, because I was what is I have questions, but okay.
So this match was a hot mess.
Theory,
I have a theory that this match needed to get cut for time.
Yeah, for sure.
Essentially, so we get the debut of Flash Funk in this one, which is wild. He comes out dancing with the Funkettes.
Which, if we wanted to cut time, did I enjoy the dance number? Absolutely, but
for sure,
it took up at least 2 minutes.
100%, just to get to the ring, and just for one of the competitors on one of the teams. So, whatever, live your debut life. Something else to call out during this is during the entrances of both Diesel and Razor, Jim Ross is like going, like, absolutely having a conniption because the crowd is like vehemently booing these two, and he is still on this whole tear of like, I don't understand, like, it's so illogical, like, these are big strong guys, like, and then he goes to describe like Razor, he's like, he's bigger than the other Razor, he's like stronger than the other Razor, and I was like, what is this? I was like, I know it's probably like your job to like be committed to the whatever this is, but like, don't paint me stupid.
I swear to God. Now you're making me feel stupid.
Don't try and gaslight me into believing that we're the problem when it's you, baby. You brought these lackluster ass wrestlers and you're still trying to cram them down our throats, and then you're wondering why nobody wants it. We told you we didn't want it from week one. This was a bad idea from the rip, and we're still just being presented with these like, why do I want this? Why do I want Michelin Man Razor Ramon? I had Razor Ramon. He went off to a different company, retired the character.
It happens.
I was like, nobody has beef with these two personally as wrestlers, where we got beef because you're packaging them as something that's already been and done.
Period.
You should have just let it be done. I don't know why he's still doing this.
Let it die, baby. And the fact that thank you so much for that rant. First of all, it was very needed. Second, it was also the fact that he kept going. Like, it wasn't like one off him comment, like, why are they booing? He was like, I don't know why you people have a problem. Like, and he just like kept going. And I was like, I was kind of annoyed. And now you're pushing me too far. Like, now I'm irritated because it's like, first of all, this is weeks old news. I'm over it. I don't care. I don't want to talk about it anymore. Just put them up there now. And now I'm just like, they're there. Whatever. They're in there. Okay, let's just get on with it. I don't need to talk about it every single week now. Move along.
But he can't let it go because the crowd doesn't let it go.
Elsa, let it go.
Let it go. So this match ends up in a double disqualification because for some reason, everyone and their mother decided to start bringing steel chairs into the ring, and just
everybody got a chair.
I was like, Savio had a chair. Who else had a chair? Diesel came out swinging with the chair first, and then Savio started swinging with the chair, and then the referees were just like, F this.
Suddenly there were three chairs. 3 chairs in the ring.
Why?
Where did we all get these chairs?
Oh, before we move on from this match, I also just wanted to point out that Jimmy Superfly Snuka looked like $1 million for having just been inducted into the Hall of Fame the night prior. We got it all. We got all of the Snuka hits before the disqualifications. At the very least, they gave us the Snuka hits. He lifted Vader and slammed him.
Vader and slammed him. Some of the youngest wrestlers out wrestling now in their prime don't do that.
Right.
I was like, is he for real right now?
And he bodied him. It was so good.
Bodied him.
That leads us into our main event match, the WWF Championship match between Sycho Sid and the current world champion, the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels.
A+ to the new Sycho Sid pyrotechnics, by the way.
I was just about to say that. So,
okay, sorry.
No, you don't have to apologize. Sycho Sid comes out to the ring, and behind him in giant pyrotechnics is Sid, just spelled out as if there was just like sparklers on crack, just huge.
And it almost like started, it like kind of like formed. It was almost like someone was like drawing it. It was so sick. Absolutely loved it.
Oh, it was fantastic. So then we get Shawn Michaels, who also came out looking like $1 million. The crowd was not going to let go of this man. At one point, he's walking down the aisle trying to make his entrance, and like some woman has like anacondaed herself to his arm and won't let go. The security literally
had to come
separate this woman from Shawn because he was never gonna make it to the ring. Because I assume he was trying not to hurt her in the process of like trying to free himself. But they are along a giant metal like barricade. So
I just always wonder what people are thinking. Like, what do you think is gonna happen if you hold on tight enough? You get to marry him,
right?
What do you think's gonna happen? Like I respect it. Absolutely respect it.
Like, don't get me wrong. I understand the thirst.
Understand it. Absolutely. I would touch if I could. I would just a little graze as he walked by, but the grabbing and the vice grip, that's pretty
yeah, I know. It was aggressive.
It's something, but good for you, girl. You got it.
I mean, it must have done something though, because Shawn Michaels was giving us a little extra in his entrance this morning.
Whoa!
Like,
oh my god!
He really came and just gave us the sauce. Like, woo! I don't know why he was feeling it in the air today.
Deep lunge.
Deep lunge.
Xavier was like, "Do you want to go back and watch it again?" Because I had such a visceral reaction. I was like, "No, it's fine. I'll watch it later when I'm alone." It's so silly. He's just so silly.
She was positively smitten. It was hilarious.
I was like, "Oh my god, he's just so funny. He's just so silly."
So this, oh my god, amen. Listen, I get it.
Me too.
You don't ever have to apologize for loving Shawn Michaels.
Oh, thank God. Safe space.
So this crowd was very split during this match.
Whoa.
It was unexpected because up until this point, Shawn Michaels has really gotten like nothing but like adoration.
Love.
He has gotten like nothing. So like, and the thing is like, it was as the match progressed, it kind of seemed to be more in Sid's favor.
Absolutely.
Which was crazy to me because like, there's nothing that Sid has done that has been like supposed to get you on his side. And I don't think there's anything that Shawn's done that's been like particularly like, oh,
bad.
Like, right. But it was probably a good time for how this match ended to go the way that it did because of that.
Right. And I think we did talk about it I think it was a couple weeks ago where we were like, it is crazy how much the crowd loves Sycho Sid. Like they really, really love him.
Mm-hmm.
Like absolutely adore him. And so I was so curious how this match was going to go. And I think it, calls back to what you said earlier about like, if you want to be the champion, people have to really love you and like really buy into what you're selling and like really just want to see you win. And the last month or so, like every time Sycho Sid comes out, every time you hear that music,
they go nuts.
Lose it. They go nuts. And again, it's crazy because it's like, not that there's no reason. I mean, he's huge. He's an amazing wrestler. He's, interesting, but it's like nothing
it feels like it came out of nowhere.
It came out of nowhere that he has just this insane, rabid fan base. But like,
listen,
I mean,
it was going for him. And and he was impressive in this match. So Shawn Michaels' aim during this match, as the smaller guy, you're trying to chop down the big guy. That's your MO. You got to be faster than him. You got to reverse whatever he's trying to do, and you got to get him off of his feet.
Yeah,
that's your job as the smaller like competitor. And of course, Sid's whole MO is power.
Yeah,
power. And Jim Ross does a good point of mentioning that Sycho Sid is not a technical wrestler. He's not gonna like, not that he can't wrestle, not saying that, but that's not his bread and butter. His thing is, I'm going to just out muscle you. I'm going to hit you as hard as I can from every which angle that I can, and then I'm going to power bomb you through the mat. That's it. There is no like formulaic, like one way flippity dip. Like there's none of that with him. Not going to happen. So, Jim Ross also does a really good job of kind of describing Shawn Michaels as like a pit bull. He says like he doesn't know how big or small he is.
Yep.
He's just gonna keep barking and fighting, and like he doesn't ever take it into account. And that goes back to Shawn Michaels being like, I have more guts than brains. And it happens a lot during this match where he
literally at one point he's like, come on, keep giving it to me. Like he's literally like about to pass out and he like is getting slammed into the corner over and over again. He just going like, come on. At one point he's literally going like this and he like collapses on his face. Like he's like beckoning him and he just collapses.
Like just can't stop. Just the bravado is so real.
So real.
At one point, Sycho Sid one-arm choke slams Shawn Michaels
off
all the way to hell
of Sweet Chin Music.
Yes,
that was ludicrous.
Because first of all, the authority in which he picked him up with one arm just absolutely threw him down onto the mat. It was a doozy. Like there was a moment like where the whole first of all the crowd lost their minds, then we get into this whole kind of scenario where Sycho Sid grabs the camera, and then we think he's going to hit Shawn Michaels at first, and then he turns around and bops Jose Lothario with it, knocking him
right
off
in the chest.
Insane. Absolutely insane. So, and then Jose Lothario hits the deck, obviously, because he's 60 years old, and is clutching his chest on the side of the ring, much to the distraction of Shawn Michaels. So he goes out to check on Jose because that's his like father figure, basically. And Sycho Sid then follows him out there and smacks him in the back with the camera. Then he throws Shawn Michaels back into the ring where the referee is coming to because he had been knocked out by Shawn Michaels during a like reverse like plancha kind of situation. And so he starts coming to just in time to see Sycho Sid powerbomb Shawn Michaels and get the victory, thus giving us a new world champion, Sycho Sid.
I knew as soon as the ref was knocked out, I was like, oh,
this is gonna
be Sycho Sid. I just knew it because especially because it was Shawn Michaels that did it. Like Shawn Michaels was the one that accidentally like injured the ref.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, this is gonna be back. Like one error, not an error, but like one bad move.
It was an error, yeah.
An error like after another, and then like now Jose is injured, and now like whatever. I was like, oh, they're stacking it against him. I was like, God damn it.
I know. And your face at the end was just like, Kelsey, I think experienced like for the first time, like the feeling that all wrestling fans know when like their guy loses the big one. And welcome.
Thank you. Oh
I said that's being a wrestling fan in a nutshell, because nobody stays on top forever. So every wrestling fan will experience that moment where their guy makes it all the way to the top just to get knocked down.
It is both a delight and terror to be here.
Sounds about right.
You know what? I said it many weeks ago. I was like, I will be so curious as to who is the person that dethrones Shawn Michaels, because he's just so good. And it was the perfect storm. It was the perfect storm. But I will say it is literally insane. And it's so crazy, like, because you know that it's quote unquote scripted or like whatever. Right. And like Jose, I legitimately was like concerned for Jose Lothario. I still am.
Oh my God. But and like, the whole time the commentator was like, I hope he's not having a heart attack.
I hope he's not having a heart attack. And like,
I was like,
if we get a doctor out here, because this is what I was gonna say, like Shawn Michaels is literally clutching him, holding his head like he is a baby, and is screaming like, please somebody get an EMT, get a medic, get a something, like and that's when he gets hit in the back with the camera. And even after he loses the match, like when Sycho Sid powerbombs him, he loses the match, he loses the championship, which he's held for so long. He doesn't even care. Like JR's like, Shawn Michaels could not care less about losing this match, because he immediately just like slides out of the ring, goes right back to Jose. And it's like, it took forever for EMTs to get there. It's gut-wrenching. it took forever for EMTs to get to him. Shawn Michaels, it is literally like a soap opera. He is screaming. He's like pushing EMTs out of the way.
He's like, get the camera out of here.
Get the camera out of here. Like, oh my God. And then they rush him away and he's like crawling after him because he's grievously injured. Oh, like no one even noticed. Like Sycho Sid was walking around with the title belt, like woohoo, or the championship belt, like woo, like I did it. Everyone was like, what just happened? Did we just witness accidental homicide? Like, did we just witness second degree murder?
Oh my God.
Or third degree? Third degree?
I don't know their degrees. I hope I never have to learn them.
I'm sorry that I actually really scary. I felt the need to differentiate. Just forget it. Forget I ever said anything. But it was shocking.
Yes.
Shocking. A shocking result.
So that is where we are at, guys. This is a very, very pivotal pay-per-view. A lot happened as far as we now have most of the major players of the Attitude Era. We're gonna get a few more. Don't get me wrong.
I can't imagine who else is coming.
We haven't seen everybody, but the pieces are there. We are going to start seeing the really exciting part of the Attitude Era kind of come at us, and I'm stoked. We have The Rock, we have Bret Hart back. I'm pleased. I'm thoroughly tickled.
Oh my God. I know. I can't wait to see what happens now, like after this. Like, this feels insane. Like, we have a new champion. Shawn Michaels has been the champion since we started the podcast.
Yeah.
That's so crazy. This is a pivotal moment for us. Like, what are we talking about? I know
we're entering into a new era.
I feel brand new.
All right, guys. So that was this week's edition of the New to Wrestling podcast. As always, thank you so much for joining us. We love doing this show, and we are only going to have more fun. So
I cannot wait.
Catch us wherever you listen to podcasts, and we will see you next week.
See you next time.
Bye.